Hi, second graders. This is Joseph here. Today we are beginning Module 7, and we're going to start off Module 7 by learning about data and graphing. So without further ado, let me share our objectives for the week with you. All right. So our week of April 20th math objectives are: I can collect and sort data. I can organize data into a table with tally marks or numbers. I can create graphs that show data. The two different types of graphs we're going to be practicing using are picture graphs and bar graphs. And I can solve problems using data presented in a bar graph. So let's take a look at what that is going to look like. Okay, so graphing is the first step of that is going to be collecting data. Here we see that they collected data on people's favorite color. There were 3 different categories. 1 was red, 2 was blue, 3 was green. 6 people liked red the best. We can tell by looking at the tally marks and the number. And 10 liked blue the best. 8 liked green the best. One way we can organize this data is into a pictograph, or another word for that is picture graph. Down here, we look at red and there's 1, 2, 3 stars. But wait, I thought they said 6 people liked red the best. Well, sometimes you have to look at the key, or another word for that is legend, okay? So if we look at the key, it tells us that each star equals 2 people. So we actually have to count each star as 2. Let's look at that. 2, 4, 6, like red the best. Oh, that actually matches our data up here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, like blue the best. That matches our data. 2, 4, 6, 8, like green the best. So make sure that you are paying attention to the key or the legend. Also, we are going to be creating bar graphs with our data. Right here, you could see the numbers vertically: 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And here we have our 3 categories. Red is going all the way up to 6. That matches the data we collected. Blue is going all the way up to 10. That matches the data collected. Green is going all the way up to 8. That matches the data collected. So that is a quick glance at what we're going to be working on this week. Let's go ahead and go through a practice of these different skills together. We are going to start with our first objective, which is collecting and organizing data. Earlier this year in science, we worked on animal classification. Remember that mammals have fur or hair, they're born alive, they're warm-blooded, they drink milk from their mothers. Fish have fins, scales, gills, they lay eggs in the water, they live in the water. Birds have feathers, 2 feet, a toothless beak, and wings. And reptiles can possibly have shells, they lay eggs on the land, they have skin, and they're cold-blooded. So I have some animals here that I'm going to be sorting based off of these 4 different categories, okay? So this one is a bird. He has feathers, he has a beak, he has wings. This one is a mammal. He has fur, they are warm-blooded, they drink milk from their mothers. Here we have another bird. Here we have another mammal. So this one is a reptile. It has a shell. So look at, we have a mouse, we have a bear, we have a chicken, we have a penguin, we have a sea turtle. We're organizing all of these different animals into 4 different categories based off their characteristics. Here we have a snake as a reptile, a lizard as a reptile. Ooh, this one might be surprising to some of you. Whale is going to go with our mammals because they give birth and they also are warm-blooded. Here we have a little cute white fox. Ooh, we have our first fish, a shark with a fin and gills. Here we have another snake. That's going to be a reptile. Here we have another bird. Have an owl, that's a bird. We see the beak, we see the wings, we see the feathers. So notice I'm first having to take all this data and organize it, right? I'm organizing it into different categories. Here I have another fish. Here I have another lizard, gonna go with my reptiles. A little mammal with fur. Oh, another one that might be surprising. Dolphins are mammals, just for the same reason whales are mammals, okay? We have another furry bear. We have a little furry seal here. And here we have our last fish. So we've taken all of these different animals with different characteristics and we've sorted them into 4 different groups. Here's our mammals, here's our fish, here's our birds, here's our reptiles, okay? So we just completed our first objective. I can collect and sort data. Check. Next, it says, I can organize data into a table with tally marks or numbers. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our data. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mammals. I'm going to put that into my little table here. I made 4 different categories for my 4 different animal types, or my 4 different animal classifications, and I included a title to show what my data is all about, animal classifications. Now I'm going to do 8 tally marks to show that I have 8 mammals underneath the section that says mammals, okay? So let me go ahead and stop sharing my computer screen, and I'm going to start sharing our table. Okay, so looking here, we just counted 8 mammals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, let's take a look at our birds next. Oops, there we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 birds. Let's go ahead and do that on our table here. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4 birds. I'm using tally marks to keep track of my data. Let's look at our screen again. We're going to have to look at our screen a couple more times. Let's see how many fish we have. We have 1, 2, 3 fish. Let's put that onto our table. 1, 2, 3 fish. Again, keeping track with my tally marks, okay? And last, reptiles. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reptiles. Let's track that with our tally marks again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reptiles. Now, another way we could have kept track of our data, the tally marks worked great, but we also could have just written the numbers, right? There were 4 birds, there were 3 fish, there were 8 mammals, there were 5 reptiles. All right, let's take another look at our objectives for the week. So looking at our objectives, I can organize data into a table with tally marks or numbers. That is what we just practiced doing together. We took all of our information about our animal classifications and we entered the data with tally marks. Then we entered the data with numbers. The next thing on our list is I can create graphs that show data. First, let's practice with picture graphs. Then let's practice with bar graphs. Okay, sharing my screen with you again. First, let's practice with a picture graph. This is what we're going to use to make our picture graph. The first thing that our graphs are going to need is a title. What is this all about that we've been working on? We've been working on animal classification. What were our 4 sections that we had? We had birds, fish, mammals, and reptiles. And on our little picture graph, let's just do a dot to equal 1 animal. Okay, let's look back at our data. We had 4 birds. So under our birds, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at our fish. We had 3 fish. 1, 2, 3 fish. Let's look at our mammals. We had 8 mammals. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dots for our mammals. We had 5 reptiles. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots for our reptiles. Now, when we move down here, instead of going vertically like we did on our first picture graph, we're going to go horizontally. You guys might remember this as a column or a row. That language works too. So here, we're going to do the same title. We're still talking about animal classification. Here, it only has 3 sections for us. So let's just go with our birds, our fish, and our mammals. That will work fine. Sorry, reptiles, we're going to leave you out this time. All right, birds, remember we had 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just going to do 4 dots next to our birds. Fish, we had 1, 2, 3. So we do 3 dots for our fish. Mammals, there were, let's look at our data, 8 mammals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, we were doing each dot equals 1 animal. We just practiced completing a picture graph together. Now, let's use our data to complete a bar graph. Okay, so for our bar graph, we're going to do the same thing. It's animal classification. Up here, we're going to be practicing a horizontal one. Down here, we're going to be practicing a vertical one. This title is also going to be animal classification. That's what we're talking about. And what were our 4 different categories? We had birds, fish, mammals, and reptiles. Let's go up by ones, okay? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How many birds did we have? We had 4 birds. So here for our birds, we're going to shade in 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you look, you go over to the birds, you drag down, it's right at 4, okay? Fish, we had 3. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3. Drag down. It matches up with the number 3 at the bottom, okay? Mammals, we had 8. So we're gonna color in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if we go down with our finger, we see it lines up right with the number 8. Reptiles, we had 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We shade it in to be a nice solid rectangle there. And if we bring our finger down, we see that reptiles lines up with the number 5. Let's try it going the other way. And here it looks like it cut us short again. Let's maybe just put birds here, fish here, mammals, and reptiles. Okay, let's look at our birds first. Again, birds had 4, so we're going to shade all the way up to the number 4. We just shaded in 4 squares. If we look at our fish, we had 3. So we're going to shade in all the way up to the number 3. 3. Then when we look at mammals, we had 8. So we're going to shade in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make it a nice solid bar there for our bar graph, and it lines up perfectly with the number 8. We look for our reptiles, we have 5. So we need to shade in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 above our reptiles category. We drag our finger over from where our bar goes, it lines up perfectly with 5. So we just practiced making a bar graph together. Let's go ahead and take another look at our objectives for today. We just completed, I can create graphs that show data. We did a picture graph first with our dots. Our picture graph. Then we did a bar graph. Next, there's our bar graph. All right, our last goal is I can solve problems using data presented in a bar graph. These are the kinds of questions that we'll be looking at. How many categories did we have? Well, we had birds, fish, mammals, reptiles. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. So the answer to that question would be 4. How many animals did we sort all together? Well, there were 4 birds, 3 fish, 8 mammals, and 5 reptiles. Let's enter that as an addition sentence. 4 plus 3 plus 8 plus 5 equals, that's going to be 7. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 8 is 15, plus 5 is 20. 20 animals total. Which type of animal did we have the most of? Well, the biggest number was 8. We had the most mammals. Which type of animal did we have the least of? The smallest number in our table is 3. We had 3 fish, so the one we have the least of is fish, right? How many more mammals are there than fish? Well, we just saw we had 8 mammals minus 3 fish. We had 5 more mammals than fish. How many reptiles and fish are there? Well, we had 5 reptiles. We had 3 fish. That would be 5 plus 3. We had 8 when we put our reptiles and fish together. So that is what I mean when I say we're going to be solving problems using data presented in bar graphs, okay? So we're going to have to, again, collect and organize the data. That's what we did here on this slide. We're going to need to organize data into a table with tally marks or numbers. That's what we did here. Here we organized it into a table with tally marks. Here we organized it into a table with numbers. Then we're going to be creating graphs that show data. The first kind of graph we're going to be using is picture graphs. Here's the picture graphs that we made. We're going to be organizing it into bar graphs. Here are the bar graphs that we made. Last, I can solve problems using data presented in a bar graph. That's what we did here when we answered all of these questions about the data. All right, we will continue practicing those skills together throughout this week. I'm really excited to start with this with you because there's a lot of fun things that we can look into and research as we're working with data. If you have any questions, as usual, don't hesitate to reach out to your teacher. Bye, second graders.